Welcome to the Fit for Halter podcast. We're here to bring practical content and community to the amateur halter exhibitor. I'm your host, Amy Zabel, and I interview people from across the halter horse industry. We'll learn new techniques, hear about the hottest products, and get to know one another. If you grow in your knowledge and we gain more exhibitors in the ring, this has been a success. It's a laid-back environment. Prepare to be inspired and maybe take some notes. Welcome to the Fit for Halter podcast. I have the pleasure of introducing to you a friend of ours, a friend of the industry. She is in equine insurance. That's our topic for this episode. So Shelley Drury is with us today. Hi, Shelley.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Great. Excited to hear what you have to say and share that information with our audience. So I'm going to take a quick minute to introduce you, Shelley, and then we'll get started. So Shelley was previously a coach and educator, and she now is with Armstrong Insurance Agency as an insurance agent. She specializes in equine insurance and has been at it for 15 years. And you'll be happy to know that she currently shows Appaloosas in halter and has been doing that for the last 35 years. So Shelley, welcome to our group. Welcome to this audience and community of halter horse lovers. Why don't you start by telling us about your personal horse journey, how you got started, and what you're up to now?
Well, I'll do that. Thank you so much. It's so great to talk to you and your audience. I guess my journey came from all my life as a child dreaming of having a horse and never being able to afford one. And at 35 years old, I got my first horse. It was an Appaloosa, and that's when the addiction started. And so to this very day, 35 years later, I'm still showing. I show in the masters and the elite classes. I do show the all-around horse, but I do get the joy of showing performance halter and also showmanship, which in our breed is a halter class as well. So that's kind of fun for us. Just enjoy being in the industry. It keeps me young. It's about to be 71 this next month, and enjoying it, loving it. And that's just kind of my journey.
Yeah. What is a favorite memory or experience that you have having shown halter horses?
Well, I would say I have a new horse now, and he is halter bred, and he does the all around, but I've been really excited to be able to show him in the performance halter, and he's doing quite well. So it's fun, and he's a big old boy. His name is Carter, and so I enjoy showing him. And then showmanship has always been my passion, and as I said, that being a halter class in itself, and I've won the nationals in the world in that several times. So that's probably my most exciting times.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see Carter out and about, maybe in some pictures. So we're going to spend some time together breaking down terms and general insurance information, and then building it back up so we have a broad perspective as well. So we'll start with kind of an introduction to equine insurance. Can you give us a brief overview of what equine insurance covers and why it's important for horse owners?
Yes. Equine insurance basically is for accident, injury, illness, disease on the major medical side. But first and foremost, it is a mortality theft policy. In essence, meaning just like our life insurance, equate that with your horse insurance. So that is what comes first with your policy. That's your generic policy. You get to insure the horse for the unfortunate time if you do lose them. Theft, which doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. So I guess that's the major thing. You're always going to want to insure your horse. And basically, you're insuring your financial investment. So that is the importance of the insurance itself, basic mortality theft.
Okay. So in those categories, can you explain a little bit further, maybe some examples of those different types of coverage?
Sure. As far as mortality and theft, or the endorsements, mortality and theft. Mm-hmm. So what we do first of all, when we talk to a new client about insuring their horse, is we're going to ask what they paid for the horse. And that's where you initially begin your insured value. value that you would be reimbursed if your horse were to die. And also in the breeding part of it, when we're insuring babies, we can insure babies at 24 hours old. We start with 3 times the stud fee, and then we can add some of the breeding fees in there as well to get started on that. So with your investment.
Okay. How is equine insurance different than other types of insurance that we have?
Well, if you were to look at car insurance, you purchase a car, you buy your insurance, they pay for everything. I have a prime example of that. We had a lady who had a large claim. She has a body shop, and she tried to equate her car insurance to the equine insurance. The equine insurance industry, you actually purchase X amount of coverage for a specific dollar amount. So if you were to do like a health insurance or car insurance, it doesn't equate here.
Okay. So when you say you're getting a policy for a certain amount, is that replacement value of the horse? Is that to cover the expense if it's major medical, such as a colic surgery?
Well, again, we start with just the basic mortality theft policy. That one is going to be an agreed value policy. That is all I sell. And meaning that the amount that we agree to with the contract that is your application, that is what would be reimbursed to you in the event of a loss.
Okay.
You can then go on and add your major medical coverages, and there are a multitude of those, starting at $5,000 all the way up to $15,000. And you also are allowed different deductibles. Your major medical coverage would include paying for accident, injury, illness, disease. It also covers colic. The policies that I sell do allow an emergency colic surgery coverage in addition that comes with the policy. Several of my vendors do not allow that for the halter horses. Several of them do.
Okay. You mentioned endorsements. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. Major medical is an endorsement. So as we spoke about before, your policy is basic with the mortality theft, and then you add different coverages to it. Okay. So that's what we term in the insurance industry endorsements to policies.
Okay. Are there more endorsements than major medical?
There are some. There are surgical.
Okay.
Some companies allow you to do major medical and surgical. Some don't. So there's different companies offer different options. There are some coverages for some of the really older horses that you are allowed limited coverages. So it would cover if they were out in the pasture, if they were to be struck by lightning, attacked by a dog, things like that. If you've turned them out in their retirement, covers if you had an accident hauling to the vet. So there's that coverage as well. But basically it's what I sell most of the time and what I suggest to my clients most of the time is the mortality theft, adding the major medical, and oftentimes the surgical as well, because we're all aware that colic is a big concern. In fact, it's really a major concern. And so in the areas around here, especially, it's going to cost quite a lot of money just for the vet to take a look at them. And once they open them up, and it's pricey, so it's a good thing to have.
Yeah. How did you get started in this field?
Well, I had friends in the field that I showed horses with, and they owned agencies, and so I got started in that way. And once I quit coaching and teaching, it was kind of a natural progression for me to do something in the horse industry. And I don't consider myself really to be a salesperson. I would say I'm more of a horse person that sells insurance, that tries to get the best coverage for the least amount of money, because I know the expenses involved in the industry.
I'm sure that's really helpful. You have very tangible, relatable experience.
I think so.
Yeah. So what types of clients typically seek equine insurance? Are they mostly horse owners or like equestrian businesses? Like, do you have a mixture of both?
I do. I sell farm and ranch insurance as well,
Okay.
especially in the area here in North Texas. We have a vast amount of equine ranches. I sell trainers liability, but the majority of them is just a personal relationship with a horse owner.
Hmm.
And I have
Okay.
everything from the person that has one horse in their backyard to the person that has 10 or 15 or 20 horses out in training. So we also have what's called a personal horse owner's liability policy that I'd love to talk to the group about as well. But as far as the mortality and major medical is concerned, it's basically just an individual horse owner.
Okay. The one that you said, was it the group that you said you'd like to talk more about?
Yeah, personal horse owners. That is
Yeah.
a really nice.
Tell us more
Yeah,
about that.
I will. It's a really nice, inexpensive coverage. So a lot of people that have horses do not have a ranch or a farm. They have their horses maybe at a trainer, maybe at a friend's. And if you check your regular insurance policy, a lot of times they'll cover if they're on your property, but if they're off your property, you don't really have any liability coverage for that. So there's some really neat, very inexpensive, like $250 a year liability policies out there that cover for $1 million worth of liability coverage in case your horse were to get loose, get out on the road, get hit, hit somebody. You just never know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great little coverage.
Yeah, that's a hot tip because those scenarios that you listed sound like very common situations.
It really is.
Possible situations. Yeah.
Yep, it really is.
So tell us, what's the name of that again?
Personal horse owners.
Okay. Thank you. I'm also
sure.
writing that down for later. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So you mentioned some of the different types of insurance coverage that horse owners would consider. In general, how would you explain the importance of equine insurance?
Well, it's a matter, number one, as we said, ensuring your investment, your financial investment. And then number two, on the major medical side, basically is how much do you want to self-insure? How much are you fiscally able to self-insure? If you were to have a major injury to your horse, what financially can you afford to do, or do you need help with the insurance side? Equine insurance, amazingly, is not that expensive. The most expensive part of it is the major medical, because I would say 90% of all claims are major medical claims. So therefore, like any other insurance, that's going to be your highest rate.
Okay. So if somebody has a medical colic situation, not a surgical colic, but a medical colic, that would be covered under a major medical?
It would.
Okay. What other examples do you have of major medical that are like common in horses?
Kicking through a fence. I have one right now where one was bit by a spider. It's been at the vet for a month. I mean, wow. Just the little things. We know God didn't make them very strong for as big as they are. They're so fragile. So yeah, it'll all their sensitivities. It is,
yeah, delicate flowers.
And then everybody sits out in the audience right now and they say, yeah, we can do that major medical, but then everything's going to be excluded. And that is such a dilemma when it comes to major medical. And it's just part of the business. For instance, on a colic, when you said medical colic, that's, they're going to exclude that at renewal after you have any form of colic. However, if it's a non-surgical colic, a lot of times after 6 months to a year, they'll take that exclusion off. So it's just so important to have an agent that you can work with, that you can talk to. There are so many equine insurance agents across the country, and there are so many millions of horses across the country. So it's, it's a neat job and I love it. I would just suggest to anyone that's looking for coverage, make sure that you've got someone you can talk to that can explain things to you. There are so many hidden exclusions and policies. And the owner of my company and I were like best of friends. We talk about it all the time. If there was a policy created that would cover every scenario, you could never afford it.
I'm sure.
So,
and
you know, you just have to be able to talk to someone and not be afraid to ask all those important questions. I have people call me all the time that say, I have never insured a horse. My trainer says I have to have this horse insured. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. Help. And so, you know, that's a lot of what we do. I am not a sales driven agent. And that's kind of ironic because this business is sales, but that is not my big concern.
Yeah. It sounds like you specialize in relationships, which I think for us horse people is probably the most important piece of it.
I think it is. And, you know, there are times when you have claims and they're denied and it rips your heart out. You know, you just want everything to be perfect. Horse insurance is not perfect. And if you go into it thinking that it is, it's not going to be a very positive experience for you. And so, you know, there's times when I have a client right now that I said, aren't you glad we decided together to do the major medical? And they had $28,000 worth of vet bills. They had $10,000 worth of major medical coverage, but at least they had $10,000 worth of major medical. So all of us that love our horses and do everything we can to save them, that vet bill is scary. And there are exclusions that go along with policies. There's exclusions if there are pre-existing conditions, you know, that they will not allow coverage for. But it's also horse specific and I could go into it and list a long list of things, but you know, generally it's a great investment. I feel like equine insurance is a great investment. People are shocked when they find out, you know, the cost of just the mortality theft. And then the majority of people are interested in the colic surgery side. And I show the all-around horse, of course, so there's more that's going to go wrong. And, you know, all of your rates are driven by what you do, whether it be from halter to in the show pen, in the ranch versatility to the cow horse, to the thoroughbred, to the hunter jumper, and on, the brood mare. You know, we can go on and on.
Okay. So before we head down that path, I want to back up just a touch. When you were mentioning coverage, for example, $28,000 vet bill, and at least there was $10,000 provided in the policy. What about the small injury, the spring shots? Are small bills covered as well?
Sure, but anything preventative is not covered. So you just mentioned shots. So anything that's preventative is not covered. So they won't cover joint injections. They don't cover your shots. They don't cover your wormings. If you were to have an injury and the vet had to come to you, it doesn't cover that trip to you, but it does cover once the vet gets on your property and starts working on your animal. And that's always good to know as well. But you know,
is there a reason for that? Why they don't cover the trip charge? But
I wish I had reasons for a lot of things that aren't covered.
I bet.
I'm a horse owner just like y'all.
Right. Yeah. It's nice to know and bring perspective because if you, like you mentioned, if you're not talking with somebody and establishing a relationship with them and they don't tell you these little details, then the owner gets surprised by what's covered and not covered.
And I think owners are surprised more than I wish, because I feel like I'm pretty extensive. There's times that I too drop the ball. I mean, I'm human. You know, I feel like 90% of the time, 95% of the time, my clients are extremely happy. And I think they would be with any insurance agent. I'm not just bringing that to me. But, you know, it's like I said, not everything can be covered because you couldn't afford it. You know, if you're spending $750 for $10,000 worth of coverage, and you have a $10,000 vet bill and you only paid the insurance company $750, they start to look at the bottom line on that. And that's when rates go up. There are deductibles that are offered with the different major medical coverages. So we have several that offer either a $500, $1,000, or $1,250 deductible. So what would happen is you get your bills and they take that right off the top. There's also what's called a copay out there, which an agent can present you with a much less expensive premium. However, you have your deductible that comes off the top, and say it was an 80-20, well, say a 20% copay, then the first 20% of the bill comes off, then the deductible comes off, and then they start to pay you. So, you know, that's why I really, as I talk to your audience, say, find somebody that you can really talk to, and don't be in a hurry to buy it, and shop it. You know, I always tell my clients, you know, if you feel like this isn't the right thing for you, shop.
Okay, that's good. Are there specialized insurance policies or considerations for different disciplines within the horse industry?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. The higher risk, the higher the rate. So, for instance, in the show, well, sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense, but like say a reining horse or a cutting horse, they actually have a lower rate than an all-around show horse. You know, not by much, but a little bit, because the all-around show horse does so many more things. Unfortunately, in the halter industry, the rate is extremely high, and it's getting higher. And I know in speaking to several of my friends that show halter, they mentioned to me the fact that they're finding it very hard to get coverage for their halter horses. And that, unfortunately, is true.
And what do you think is driving that?
Actually, I called 3 of my underwriters today and asked them that very question.
Okay.
And every one of them had the same answer. And I thought it was really interesting. They said that these horses don't get out as much. First of all, they said they don't get exercise. I said, oh, they get exercise daily. They said, but they don't get the free exercise. Their movement is restricted. They're not getting the cardio that the other types of horses are getting. They stand around a lot in the stalls. They're heavily muscled, and they're very beautiful. But sometimes that functionality caused by those things is they have a high rate of colic. And that's what all 3 of them told me. That's their concern.
Okay.
So I still have, I have 3 companies that will write. One is the rate is pretty exorbitant. They're making a statement they don't really want to, but they will. And then you always go into, on your halter horses, the HYPP aspect or the PSSM aspect of that as well. Anything that's an HH, they will not write, period. An NH, they will write with an HYPP or a PSSM exclusion. And then the NNs are just fine.
Okay. So you mentioned an NH or a P1 exclusion. What does that mean?
Meaning that if the horse is positive, so if they're NH or they're PSS1 single strand, they'll exclude that. So if the horse, say they just had mortality, if the horse were to pass and through a necropsy they found that was the reason, then the coverage would not pay.
Okay. Okay.
And they need to be very aware of that.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I don't know if this is just a trend on the halter side, but as I said, I've had several friends come up to me and say, I can't find insurance for my halter horses. What do we do?
Yeah. So how do you respond when somebody asks you that?
Well, I asked, you know, exactly where are we? Are they HYPP positive? Are they PSSM single strand, double strand, have they had a colic, history of colic before?
Mm-hmm.
It's, they don't want them right now. It's in a lot, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't know how else to say that, but just to be honest. And,
Yeah.
like I have several, if you have, say you have several horses, only one of them is the halter horse. They're going to allow that halter horse more readily than if all you have is a string of halter horses. But I mean, I have one company that has a very good rate. So, and there's 2 or 3 companies out there that they don't even think twice about it. It's fine. They're 100% great with it. So please don't think that insurance is not available, because it is. And even if people want to call me, I'll lead them in the right direction, even if it's not with me. I'm not doing this to get business. I'm doing this to hopefully just be informative.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you walk us through what happens when a horse owner needs to make an insurance claim? What could they anticipate?
Absolutely. They usually call me first. Oftentimes they can call directly to the adjuster. We always provide that information when we send out our policies, but most of the time they'll call me first, and they'll say, this yesterday I had a call for one that had a suspensory injury. So the procedure is that we give them the adjuster's number. We give them their policy number. It's easier if they call because they have the vet information. They know more what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I always just tell my clients, you're going to call them, you're going to give them the facts, and then you're going to give them your veterinarian's name, and they'll take it from you. So what happens then is that the adjuster reaches out to the veterinarian, and they discuss what's going on. And most of the time, that's where the communication goes once the client presents it to the adjuster. And the adjuster just works within the verbiage that's in the policy. So policies written through different companies are written with different verbiage.
Okay. Are there any trends or developments in the insurance industry that we should be aware of that you haven't already shared with us?
Let's see, trends. Not really. It's just, everyone, this is our passion.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the emotion wrapped up with it because we love these animals, or we wouldn't be doing this. And then we have the money mixed up in it as well. So it's kind of a crazy thing. We've got money, we've got people, we've got animals, and it can get a little bit crazy. But I think as far as trends, I think the rates are about to go up again, just like they are in, I'm sure everyone out there has experienced that with their home and auto. There's been about a 33% increase across the board on that. And it's happening in the industry as well. One of my adjusters told me today to be looking for a rate increase. Got another one from, not an adjuster, but from an underwriter. Got another one increase last week. And as I mentioned before, the major medical rates are going to go up. So,
Okay.
it's a great industry, and, it takes care of people. It takes care of horses. Sometimes not to the level that we want to see, but I believe in it, or I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. You touched on something that is, I think we could apply to any part of the conversations that we're having on this podcast. And that is, we're mixing the animal that we love. It's our passion. It's our hobby, throwing in money to the mix. And the weight of that and the level of importance that it has in our lives.
Absolutely. And, there's so many times right now, the economy is so bad anyway. And, we've got this big, beautiful horse that we love so much, and it gets sick. And suddenly we're in that dilemma of what do we do? Because I don't really have the money for that $4,000 vet bill or that $5,000 vet bill. And, what do I do? It's horrible. I mean, there's a lot of emotion involved in it. I deal with that emotion every single day with my clients. Most of the time it's a positive way. Sometimes it's not, but that's just the way life goes. Um, I have been blessed to be able to financially help some people that had to make that decision to euthanize. And, it was their baby, but at least financially they're reimbursed.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough,
Yeah.
but I think it's important. It's more affordable than you think it is, and it can be a really positive thing.
Yeah. What's been one of the most memorable experiences you've had in your career as an agent or as a representative of the equine insurance industry?
Probably being able to get people the financial support they needed in a bad situation. I enjoy watching all the horses that I insure. I'll go to a horse show and it'll be so much fun. My husband gets so sick of hearing me say it. I'll go, oh, I insure that one. I insure that one. I insure that one. I insure that one. So, I enjoy that. And I have them in every, from working cow horse to the halter horses. I mean, it's the whole gamut and it's fun. But yeah, I'd say most painful part is when I have a client that calls me and their coverage was excluded. That's the most painful part. But probably the biggest blessing is to be able to help them financially.
That's awesome. Yeah, I never considered until this conversation the role that you play in so many horses' lives and people's lives as this extra service and yet relationship. I hadn't really considered the impact of that.
And as I mentioned before, there's so many fabulous agents out there. And I like to believe that we're good, we're service oriented, and I hope that that's what people can find is someone that they trust to answer the phone at 3 a.m. To always be there to help guide and direct and to fight for the clients that have been told that coverages won't be taken care of. At least you fight. May not always win, but and to just find an agent that will be so openly honest with you and just have a conversation like we're having now. To me, that's what I always searched for. And to go back to your question on how I got into it, that's basically how. Because I had a good friend that owned an agency, and this is what she did. And my horses were insured with her when I was still teaching and coaching. And so when I left that field, she did ask me if I'd be interested in going to work for her. So that's kind of how that all transpired. And I'm really grateful to her for all of that. So
yeah,
me to where I am today.
Yeah, that's great. Thankful for the investment that you're making in a way that maybe people don't know about in this niche is insurance. Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Insurance is not a positive thing for most people.
Right. Yeah, it's complicated.
It is.
It's expensive.
It is.
And you're right. There's disappointments in it when something is not covered or, yeah, it's complex. If nothing else, it's complex. Yeah.
I had a friend whose son is big in the industry, and he said that people want to, when they buy their horse, they're buying their dream, and so they want to, they want to insure their dreams, and so it's kind of heavy on our shoulders. Mine was a childhood dream, and here I am at 70 years old, still living that dream, and I've used my insurance a lot over those 35 years. I'm glad I had it.
Yeah. Thank you for carrying that I'm just meeting you for the first time, but fellow horse lovers, there's a connection and a kinship already. Thank you for carrying the weight for all those people that I don't even know, but they represent families and then horses, the horses that we love, but that's a big weight.
Oh, thank you. I enjoy it. Most
Yeah,
of the time.
that's clear. Yeah, that's clear
Most
too.
of the time.
But yeah, it's clear that you love what you do. So you shared a little bit about maybe some changes that are coming. Anything else regarding innovation or changes in equine insurance?
I think I see it going more to the smaller agencies.
Okay.
Um, and not to take anything away from the large, companies at all.
Mhm.
I have all the respect in the world for them. But I see more and more on Facebook people saying that they have stepped out into the realm of selling equine insurance. And, I think that that's one important thing too. And like I said, not to take away from the large companies, but there's two of us in our company and our phones stay on 24 hours a day. And I can tell you a number of times that we answer in the middle of the night to that frantic call. And we answer to the exciting calls, and we receive the pictures of the championships, and then we see the pictures of the tragedies. And, I think that the trend is going towards that. And if anybody out there is interested in getting into this business, it's enjoyable. And I kind of think that our whole world is going that way. Let's go more to the small business owner, that we're going to get a great service. And I just think that's where the trend is, to be honest with you.
Okay. Good to know. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners about equine insurance or your role as an agent?
Not really. It's fun.
You've done a great job of opening our eyes to that, opening my eyes, I should say,
Well, thank
opening
you.
my eyes to what you do, and like I said, the weight that you carry for other people that I would never have anticipated. It's good to know about our halter horses and the tricky nature of getting them covered.
Correct. Not that it can't be done, because it sure
Mhm.
can. And there's areas out there. I mean, there are companies out there. So if somebody gets told that their horse can't be insured, then they need to keep looking.
Mhm. So I guess last question is a little bit layered. If I'm listening to this episode, I get to the end and I think, I'm kind of curious. Now I want to know more. How can they reach you? And then second to that, if they think they want somebody who doesn't live in Texas, but maybe lives in their same state or in their same county, how would a person find somebody who's geographically close to them? If I live in California or Washington State, for example, how do I find a person that's close to me? And then if I'm just connecting with you right now, how do I found out about you?
So you can find me on Facebook. Just go to Shelley Drury on Facebook and send me a message, or you can call me on my cell phone. You can send me an email. I think you have those, my phone number and my email. Our company's licensed in 36 states. So we're out there. A lot of the other agencies are as well. I would say the easy thing to do is to get on Facebook and just search, or get on Google and search.
Okay.
And a lot of people, I like to see people get on there and ask for recommendations. I see it a lot, more and more and more. I want to insure my horse. I've never insured one before. Who do you suggest? And you will see 40 answers with 40 different equine insurance agents. So there are so many options.
Okay. You mentioned that you are licensed in 36 states. Do I have to live in a state that you're licensed in?
You do.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, for me to write there.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Enjoyed it.
Well, I have as well. I feel like this was a educational opportunity for me. I hope and I truly believe that this will be helpful for our listeners. So thank you for giving us some insight, not only about insurance, but about our beloved halter horses. and kind of things to look for when we're shopping for equine insurance.
Thank you.
Right,
Best of
Shelley?
luck to everybody out there too.
Thank
Get out
you.
those futurities and win some money. Those are getting big. The Halter futurities. Wow.
You're
That's
right.
been a joy to watch too. That's neat.
Yeah. It's good. There's a lot of great things that are happening in our industry. So yeah, thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey, if you're an amateur or a professional willing to share your story or bring content that helps us with our halter horses, you can email me at fitforhalter@gmail.com.